happy almost Valentine's or Galentine's or Love Day, whatever you want to call it. I'm doing something sweet this week. Valentine's Day is coming up this weekend, and I thought it'd be fun just to have a sweet treat that you can make for you and your friends, or you and your loved one, or your family, or your love, whatever. You guys, I've made this a couple times, and it came from a magazine. People magazine, no less. And you guys, it involves an Oreo cookie crust, and I'm so pumped because guess what? Have you guys heard about this? Not glare. You guys, Oreo is making gluten-free Oreos. I actually just tried one. Hopefully I don't have cookies in my mouth. They're so good. So, dark chocolate raspberry tart. Sorry, I forgot to tell you what I was making. I'm really excited about the Oreos. Dark chocolate raspberry tart. It's super chocolatey. It's packs a punch, and the thing that's really cool is the filling doesn't have any gluten in it. So with the gluten-free Oreos, it's also a gluten-free dessert. You could totally, of course, do regular Oreos, but I don't think that this recipe is going to be altered at all with the gluten-free cookies, because you put them in a food processor or in a bag and, you know, get them all finely crumbled, add some butter, and that's your crust. I'm going to pop it in the freezer for a little bit, and then I'll bake it. So this is a really easy dessert, and I'm super excited to show you. Let's get started. Hey there, I've been pulsing my cookies. Well, say food processor is pretty awesome for this kind of thing, because you do want a real fine crumb. So I'm going to give it a couple more pulses. That ought to do it. Crumbly. Yep, I don't see any big chunks. You'll know it's ready. You can kind of see in there, there's some bigger chunks. And if you're doing this in a plastic bag, I'd say wrap it in a towel and then, you know, smash it with your rolling pin or whatever you're using to kind of crush it. But the fine cookie crumbles do make a difference. So I'm gonna put this into a bowl. I got sitting right here. So I mentioned that this is a dark chocolate raspberry tart. It gets the name, excuse me for a second. It's the name Tart because it's being put in a tart pan. Now, if you don't own a tart pan, you could totally, I think you could totally do it in a pie plate. It'll just have a little bit of a different, it might be a little different in the way it turns out and how the filling fills it, but I think it would be fine. So I have this cool little pan that I've used for years, and look at magic. So when you go to pick it up out of the oven, you gotta be careful. So I'll put this on like a baking sheet before I bake it, but I'm gonna be putting my butter over, this is melted butter, not too much. Honestly goes into this, but just enough to bring those crumbs together. And I will be taking this, mixing it up. I'll do some of that, but I won't show you a thing. And then I'm gonna be pressing it into the tart pan. And the recipe requests that you put it into a freezer to probably just let those crumbs kind of solidify. And then I'm gonna bake it for only like 8 minutes in a 350 degree oven, just to get it kind of, I guess, nice and crispy before you put the filling in, and then the filling, you'll bake that again as well. But this is gonna go real easy. So, and there's no spraying in the pan involved because this has the butter, so you won't have problems with this coming out of your pan. So I'm gonna pop this in here, and then I'm gonna get to town. It all just comes right out. Oh, sorry, I'm a little bit tall. Someday I'm gonna figure out a way to do multiple cameras. We're gonna spread this evenly, and then I'm gonna use the back of a glass. In fact, I'll just go get it. I forgot to grab it before I started. Actually, I can use this. And kind of like evenly press this out. I just go around in a circle. It's really cool. And that way it doesn't, you don't get it all over your hands. And then you kind of press up into the sides, and you'll just go around, making that kind of edge. It's really cool. And this is if you have a tart pan. Even if you don't, if you just have a pie pan, you still can use that same technique. The other thing I want to say is you could use like a springform pan. That would also work. So the idea is just to kind of, with using the back of a glass, or in this case, my glass measuring cup, you're just getting an even crust. So, okay, my crust has baked. It was frozen, then I baked it, and now it's cooled. I'll give you all the instructions below the video for temperatures and times and all that jazz. Raspberry jam. So I'm squatting down, getting some exercise while I'm cooking. I highly recommend whatever jam you use. If it's in the refrigerator, you want to get it out a little ahead of time so it can kind of come up to room temperature. It'll be much easier to spread around because you don't want to tear the crust. So it's a half a cup of raspberry jam. I have a really good jam that I love. Use what you like. If you don't want it to be super sugary, that's fine. I use one that's Johnson Family Farms. It's a place in Olympia, and they have just the yummiest jam. And this one does not have a ton of seeds in it. So if you want seedless, that's important, do that. So I'm just spreading a smear of the jam down here. Get it evenly spread. You don't have to go up the sides, just in the bottom. So that is set. Okay, next I took 8 ounces of dark chocolate. I'm like this, because it's me. I'll clean my hands before, don't worry. 8 ounces of dark chocolate, and I just cut it really fine. You guys see that? Like I shaved it almost on a cutting board. Little pro tip, don't do it when it's really hot, because thinly cut chocolate's gonna melt quick. That's why you chop it up so thin. So I've got some hot, heavy whipping cream. I'm gonna pour this over this. It's gonna melt the chocolate. I'm gonna let it sit for about 2 minutes, and then we'll be stirring that all together. So you can also do this on the stove top. I just did mine in the microwave, but don't do anything. Don't touch it. 2 minutes, I'll be back. It's been 2 minutes. My chocolate's sitting with the heavy cream. So over here, 2 eggs. I love when I work smart. So the glass Pyrex measuring cup that I measured the cream in and melted that in, I whisked my eggs into this. So those are all ready to go. And with the chocolate, watch this. I'm just gonna, you guys can see this. Just whisking right away. That chocolate is totally melting. Oh my gosh, I wish I had like the top down vision, but you'll be able to see in just a second. It's going from like real milky with flecks of chocolate to look at, boom. Now it's just glorious chocolate. This is essentially ganache. Different ratios for different ganaches. Ganache is just chocolate with heated cream melted, and sometimes you can pour this over cakes. It's really, really good. But we're gonna be adding some eggs to this, and vanilla and salt. So I guess I'll go eggs first. Because this was already hot, the glass was hot, it kind of tempered my eggs already and made them warm. So I'm gonna slowly whisk this in because it is warm, but you don't wanna take cold eggs and shock them in this. So I actually have had my eggs sitting out for, gosh, a while. Probably I'd say at least a half an hour, but that really makes a difference when you're baking and putting hot eggs into cold eggs into hot things if they're a little bit more room temp. A little bit of vanilla goes in here and some salt. And that is it, you guys. That's the filling. So again, like if you are looking for a good decadent fudgy thing, this is great. If you're looking for something gluten-free, this is great. Just something good, this is great. So I put my tart pan back on my baking sheet. Makes it just easier to handle in and out of the oven. And this is gonna just pour right over that raspberry jam and the pre-baked chocolate tart. Oh my God, you guys. Oh, I am telling you, this dessert is ridiculous. So pumped about it. Okay, it filled up to the brim. So my necklace keeps banging on here. Pop this in the oven, it's gonna bake, and then it just has to cool. Then we're gonna be enjoying it. Oh, come in for a close-up though. Look at that. Can you see the layer of jam right down there? I'm gonna hold it nice and still. That's that raspberry jam. I wanna remind you, this dessert is not honestly very sweet. I put no sugar in this chocolate, so it's bittersweet chocolate with the eggs and the vanilla and the salt. That's basically it. And then that raspberry jam and the cookie crust. So while you're like, wow, that's a lot, the chocolate's not very sweet. Going in. Oh my gosh. I'm reminded yet again why this thing is sublime. You guys, it's like chocolate silk. I'm going for a second bite, yep. With that raspberry and the gluten-free Oreos. You can't tell. Gluten-free. I would never, ever think this was gluten-free. You guys, This is like love on a plate. Love yourself by making this dessert. I'm telling you, love your friends, love your neighbors, love your lover, whatever. You should make this. It's so bomb. Okay, delight of the bite. Subscribe, share, tell your friends that I'm here. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.